Hello golfers, and thanks for joining me, 5-Star Grog, for the first in a series of videos helping you get faster in turbo golf racing. TGR released to early access in August 2022, and I've already put hundreds of hours into the game since beta. This has been by far my favourite game of the past year, and I want to help new players get better by passing on what I've learned. In this series, we're going to be taking a detailed look at all the key aspects of the game, like movement, shot types, power cores, and lots more, so that by the end you have all the knowledge you need to practice effectively, win races, and move up the leaderboards. For this first video, we're going to start by taking a look at the settings menus, where we can make tweaks to the button bindings, and a couple of other things. It's not the most exciting topic, but it'd be kind of pointless showing you how to play and then telling you to go change your keybinds, so let's get it out of the way first. To start, we're going to be looking at the control settings. The default control bindings are a good starting point for your button layout, and there's no such thing as an optimal layout, as long as you can reach all the important controls comfortably. I have made a lot of changes from the default bindings due to playing Rocket League for years, and you might want to too. What's important when making your own control scheme is to make sure that you have access to the most important controls for your car. For TGR, that's gas, brake, glide, power slide, and the combined button for jump and dash. Having your fingers on all these controls at all times means that you'll always have full control of your car as you move through the levels. You'll still want to make sure that you've got convenient binds for your pickup use, camera change, and active core if you use one, but for these you can tolerate the time it takes to move your finger for a fraction of a second. Now let's take a quick look at my control scheme. I don't recommend that you copy this necessarily, as I play with a non-standard grip with my indexes on R1 and L1 and middles on the triggers. I have no idea how these bindings would play with a normal grip. But a couple of things worth highlighting here are 1. Glide and handbrake are on the same button. You'll only ever glide in the air and power slide on the ground, so it just makes sense to have these together. This is similar to combining your binding for air roll and power slide in Rocket League. 2. Boost has been moved from circle or B. We want to be able to boost while jumping for shots, so I have this on R1 or RB. And 3, I have a dedicated button for shield tilt up. This is mostly for a couple of speed runs that I've just left in place. This isn't necessary to have a dedicated button for that. The default is left analog stick up or down to tilt your shield, and that's good enough for 99.9% of the times that we'll use it, but I'll talk about that more in a future video. Overall, this control scheme is very similar to my control scheme for Rocket League, but it definitely isn't the only way to set up your controls. I've asked several of the top players if they would send me their control setups, and they've kindly done just that, so I'll include a link in the description to an album of control setups used in the community. So I think that covers the controls. We can take a look at the camera settings next and adjust how we see the game. Similar to control settings, there is no optimal camera setting to use, but I do think it's worth making a couple of small changes from the default that, for me at least, improve the experience. So here are the default settings we see when first loading up the game, and they look like this when we're in the game. Again, there's nothing wrong with these settings, but with my settings, the game looks a bit more like this. You see that? The main difference here is that I've increased the field of view, as well as the follow distance and the height, moving the camera further away. For me, this gives a better view of the level. We don't need to be staring right up the car's pipe. I've also slightly reduced the camera stiffness by 0.1, and I've completely removed the camera shake since it's honestly more distracting than helpful. So we've had a look at the controls and camera settings. I'm now going to run through some of the other general settings, explain what they are, and make 1 or 2 recommendations on what to set them as. So first, there's the ball prediction line, which can be toggled on or off. What this does is show a line coming from the ball, pointing where the ball is expected to travel based on the current angle you're approaching from. Now this only shows a straight line and can constantly change as you adjust your angle. It does you no harm to have this enabled, but I would say that once you have some hours in the game, you should think about trying to play with it off and aiming without it. Show ball arrow will show as an arrow next to the car whenever the ball is outside of our FOV. I leave this on but never pay any attention to it, since I'll usually switch the ball cam if I need to keep an eye on a high ball. The speed visibility setting means that your car's current speed will show next to your boost meter in the UI. I do recommend that you turn this one on, it's really useful. By knowing your current speed, you'll be able to decide if you need to use boost, and generally it helps us know if we're doing a section well. Steering sensitivity controls how quickly your steering will be turned when moving the analog stick. I leave this on default, but if you find the steering too twitchy or too sluggish, this is where you can fix that. This is one where you're going to have to play a bit, decide for yourself if you want to change it. I know some players play with this all the way down, although I don't know anyone that plays with it all the way up. Turning aim assist. Now this one allows you to have a slightly different steering sensitivity as you approach the ball. I play with this turned off, as in all the way down, since I want my steering inputs to be consistent at all times. If you find that you're often over curving shots by turning as you drive into the ball, then you can use this to soften that effect a bit. Forward dash flip assist. This setting will flip the car forward if you dash quickly after jumping whilst holding the stick forward, allowing you to release the stick and have the car continue to flip. I'll be honest and say I've never used this setting and wasn't really able to make it work effectively when working on this video, so I would leave it off unless you have a good reason to turn it on. Glide on toggle. As we'll discuss in the movement video of this series, gliding is one of the most important mechanics in turbo golf racing, and you'll be doing it every single hole. This setting means that you'll be able to toggle it on and off rather than holding down the button. I play with this on hold, but this is just a preference as I prefer that for doing flips and spins to get more boost and shield. There are a couple of settings here for the minimap. I'd strongly recommend leaving these on as they give very useful information in multiplayer races, since we can see both the cars and balls of other players. These emoji settings, as well as the sound and graphics settings, will all come down to your preference and are pretty self-explanatory, so we won't go through these in this video. And really, that covers the settings that I think we want to understand before jumping into your first time trial. In the next video, we'll get out of the menus and into the game, as I want to show you what's in the levels of turbo golf racing in detail. We'll be looking at the various types of terrain we need to play through and 1 or 2 ways to deal with them, as well as other level elements like tunnels, rings, boost strips and more. I hope you found this video useful, but if you have any questions about the game, you can ask in the comments here or join the Discord community, which I'll also link in the description. Thanks so much for watching, and see you next time.